Hi, and welcome to Algebra 1, Lesson 13. This is Rob Yates. And if your algebra teacher is Ms. Boatwright, Ms. Reynolds, Mr. McCrae, Mr. Strickland, Mr. Still, or Mr. Yates, you are in the right place. Today's learning target is I can find the roots and the y-intercept of a quadratic equation in the standard form and use them to make a sketch of a parabola. I remind you, you can stop this video at any time. You can fast forward or rewind it. But please see it through to the end so you can get to the joke of the day. All right, let's do a little review from last week. Roots are called the solutions or the x-intercepts. Here's the x-intercepts of this particular parabola. And they're the points where they cross the x-axis. And if you think about it, what is the value of y at the x-axis? Y equals 0. Now, we want to talk about the y-intercept this week. That's where the parabola crosses the y-axis. Right here. Here's the y-axis. And of course, again, if you think about it, what does x equal at the y-axis? X equals 0. All right, steps to finding the roots. We're going to let y equal 0. We have to remember that a equals 1, b equals 7, and c equals 6 in our example. So, we're going to do a little diamond, and in the top of the diamond, it's a times c, which is 1 times 6. So it's 6. And in the bottom of the diamond, it's b, so it's 7. So we have to think of two numbers that add up to 7, but multiply together are 6. We try our first pair, 1 and 6, and bingo, 1 plus 6 equals 7. So here are our factors. X plus 1 times x plus 6. To find our roots, we make them equal to 0, and we solve. What plus 1 equals 0? Well, you probably know that instinctively that it's negative 1, but let's say we had to figure it out. X plus 1 equals 0. We subtract 1 from each side. X equals negative 1. The same is true for x plus 6. X plus 6 equals 0. We subtract 6. X equals negative 6. So our roots that they asked for up here are negative 1, and y is what? If you said 0, you're right. And negative 6, 0. Now, we have to find the y-intercept. How do we do that? To find the y-intercept, we plug in a 0 for x. So in this particular case, it would be 0 squared plus 7 times 0 plus 6. Well, 0 times 0 is 0. And last time I checked, 7 times 0 is 0. So what we're left with is 6. Our y-intercept is 0, 6. But I'd like to point out something to you. Look up here at our original equation. C is 6. Your C is your y-intercept. You don't need to plug in 0. You can just look at C. So let's make a quick sketch of what we got going here. How about, let's see, we got negative 1, 0. And we have negative 6, 0. And my y-intercept is 0, 6. So I'll make a different color. So something like this. Isn't that beautiful? All right. Remember, you can rewind this if that's a lot of information and you're trying to get it all digested. Here's another example. Y equals x squared minus 3x minus 4. And we're going to let 0 equal y. Zero equals x squared minus 3x minus 4. We need to remember that our a is what if there's nothing in front of the x squared? It's a 1. Our b is negative 3, and our c is negative 4. To find our roots, we set up our diamond, and in the top it's a times c. So that's 1 times negative 4, which is negative 4, and b is negative 3. So two numbers that multiply together equal negative 4 and added together equal negative 3. I remind you that a negative and a positive are the only ways that we can come up with a negative product or result of a multiplication problem. So negative 1 times 4 doesn't work, but what if we reverse that order? What if we did negative 4 times 1? It would add up to negative 3, and it would result in a negative 4 answer to a multiplication problem. So negative 4 and 1 are our factors. So we've got x plus 1 times x minus 4. And to solve for our factors, we make them equal to 0. X plus 1 equals 0. What plus 1 equals 0? Negative 1 plus 1 equals 0. But if you're not sure about that, you can always just solve it like we've been doing since the beginning of the year. Do the same thing over here. X minus 4 equals 0. The opposite of minus 4 is plus 4. And we get x equals 4. So our roots, if we write them as a ordered pair, are negative 1, 0, and 4, 0. My y-intercept, remember, I can plug in 0, or I can just look and see what c is. C is negative 4. I wrote that right here. So my y-intercept is 0, negative 4. Let's make a quick graph. Y-intercept is 0, negative 4. X-intercept is negative 1, 0, and 4, 0. Now it's positive, so that means it points up. So something like this. All right, here we have one with a negative. It says negative x squared plus 6 x minus 5. So the first thing we need to do is factor out the negative, and that leaves us with x squared minus 6x plus 5. So a equals 1. B equals negative 6, and C equals 5. A times C is 1 times 5. And B is negative 6. The only way we can have a sum that's negative and a product that's positive is if both of our numbers are negative. So, negative 1 times negative 5. Negative 1 times negative 5 is positive 5 because a negative times a negative is a positive. And also negative 1 plus 5 is negative 6. So here we go. These are our numbers. X minus 1 and X minus 5. If I plug in and make them equal to 0, I get X minus 1 equals 0, so I add 1, X equals 1, or 1, 0, and X minus 5 equals 0. I add 5 to each side, and I get X equals 5, or, whoopsie, 5, 0. Y-intercept. What is the y-intercept? The y-intercept is negative 5. So, we make a dot down here. We make another dot at 1, 0. And we make another dot at 5, 0. And we would have something that looks something like this. In summary, to find the roots, y is equal to 0. The roots are sometimes called the solutions or the x-intercepts because they go across the x-axis. To find the y-intercept, we make x equal to 0 and we simplify, or you can just remember that we can just use C. Today's joke is brought to you by Jesse Maciel, who asks, who is the planet's favorite artist? Bruno Mars. That's all for today. You can log into Khan Academy. You can log into Desmos. You can try Worksheet 3 or Google Homework 13, not 3. Or you can watch our next video lesson. Thanks a lot. Have a great day.